So today I had a few random thoughts about life and death, and I thought I'd document them here. It feels a bit weird to be talking about these things in a way, but I don't know, I thought I'd get these thoughts out. So a few moments ago I was listening to the radio and the news came on, and normally I just ignore the news, but I thought I'll listen to it today. So I listened, and it was just a bunch of rubbish stories, but the leading story at the beginning was about a volcano that's just erupted in New Zealand, and 30 people are missing or believed dead from the explosion, the eruption at the volcano. And it's a sad story. But after the news was over, the radio presenters went on, and then they had a separate little discussion about how sad it was, and the whole trauma and worry that everyone must be feeling. But it just sort of ties in with something I watched yesterday, which is a bit of an out there video where someone sort of mentioned that, you know, in this reality that we're in, it's like we're living in a death zone where we sort of like we live off of death, or we feed off of death in some ways. Death is sort of like this thing that everyone fears and worries about, and they push it in the news, and you know, all the news stories are so often about, you know, either, you know, someone's died in a tragic scenario, or people worrying about the potential for death. And then on the other side of it, you know, what do we do every day where we feed off of things that have died? So we eat animals that are dead. We eat plants that have died because we've plucked them out of the ground. And the guy I was listening to mentioned other thoughts as well, but his basic sort of idea was that, you know, in this lifetime we feed off of the dead. Okay, so the thought that I had on that this morning was that, you know, if we're feeding off of the dead in this world and this reality, what if there's another world out there, another dimension where we exist as souls, as spirits, and we're alive, and we're doing things in this world, but in that world there are creatures, entities, spirits, bad spirits, demons, whatever you want to call them. What if they're feeding off of us? What if they're feeding off of life? So we're taking from the dead, we're taking from the animals that have passed away and using them to sustain us. But what if there's something better than the dead? What if you could survive off of life itself to keep you alive and to help you in that world? So what if there's another world out there, and we're being fed off of in that world by other creatures or entities? And what if the system itself in this world is designed and set up in such a way that it allows those entities in that world easy access to us, so that we can be fed off of easily and not even know it? So we're just sort of so focused on this world all the time that that's all we can see, that's all we can perceive. But what if in that other world that we may exist in at the same time, what if yeah, what if they're having access to all of our life force, and that's keeping them alive in some way. That's keeping them going. I often listen to videos from Matt from Quantum of Conscience, his channel, and his thought on that is that you know we feed other entities in some way with our emotions. His thought is it's our emotions that we give them, that we allow our emotions to control us in some way in this world. But my thought is that there's another world out there somehow, and that's how we're being fed off of. But Matt's idea is that it's the emotions that they like to take. And I've seen some other related videos, some related topics recently. People refer to it as energy. People have mentioned different types of energy. I won't go into all the types, but certain types of energy seem to be more powerful. And the idea is that, you know, some of those types of energy, those may be the ones that are being plucked away from us. But anyway, I'm just going to switch gears a little bit now. So still on the topic of death, but just a different story. So going back to the news and the story about New Zealand and the volcano that went off on the island, it just kind of reminded me of a story that came up in the news last year, and I actually heard it on the radio at the time. I happened to be listening to the radio, listening to the news, and I heard about an avalanche that had happened also, I think, in New Zealand, somewhere around that area. And a girl was killed from Australia, was killed in that avalanche. And I found out, I just had a, you know, that kind of story, it just sort of stuck out to me for some reason. Like, I kind of noted it in my mind. And then I found out, you know, a week or so later from my father that that was actually a friend of the family that had passed away. So I knew her since I was very little. She was a few years younger than me, and I haven't seen her for many years. But she was a very positive, happy, very, very sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't say completely pure, but like a really just a sweet, sort of gentle person. And yeah, it was kind of sad to hear about that story in some ways, but the news only told half the story, really. The news only told about the avalanche and what actually happened on that day, but the behind the scenes part of the story is that that lady, her family actually had a lot of tragedy, and it was really really unusual. First, the brother passed away when he was little with cancer, and that was quite tragic, and it really affected the family a huge amount. And the father and mother always used to do walks for charity, raising funds for curing cancer and all that sort of thing. Just kind of, you know, if they couldn't be there with their son, at least they would try and help the world in some way. And then a number of years later, then the father passed away, and it was, from what I recall, it was quite sudden and unexpected. But so then he was gone. So there was only the mother and daughter left at that time. and then the daughter passed away in the avalanche. So now the mother, this lady's come out to Australia years ago, had a family, um, raised them. They've, you know, one of them's grown up as an adult and become this great, amazing woman. And then all of a sudden she's lost her whole family, and it's only just her. She's the only one surviving. So that was like the real sort of tragedy, the whole backstory that you don't hear about. But I don't know. I hear about these stories, and like my dad was really sad and upset, and he tries to, he holds back his sort of emotions and stuff, but you can see that he's sad and sort of shocked about the whole scenario, as anyone would be. But the way that I react to death it's different to other people. I don't know. It's hard to explain exactly, but it's kind of like, it's not like I don't care about it, but I don't feel the emotions that other people feel. Like when my grandfather passed away when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I just went to school, everything went normal. I came home from school, and then my mum told me. I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then I didn't really know what to do. And then I just went on the computer and I messed around on the computer for a while. And then eventually my dad came out, and I said, oh, sort of comforted him. But I didn't really feel any emotion that day. And at the time I was thinking, why don't I feel any emotion? Like, the whole society tells me I'm supposed to be sad, and I expected to be so sad and upset and all of that. And I didn't feel anything. I was just like, I just went on with my life. And the next day I sort of like, I remembered it every now and again, and I tried to be sad because the society told me to be sad, but I didn't really feel sad. The same thing happened with my grandmother when she passed away. Like with my grandfather, I didn't really know him. I spoke to him on the phone a few times when I was growing up. But, we're in different countries, and I'd only sort of seen him once when I was like 6 years old. So I couldn't really remember, like, seeing his face, and I didn't really know him. So I guess like from that level, like, I just kind of thought, oh well, I didn't really know him, so that's why I don't feel anything. With my grandmother, I didn't know her really, except when she came on holidays a few times. But then later on, she came to live with us for about a year or so, a year and a half, maybe 2 years, something like that. And she was living with us, so I got to sort of actually know my grandmother. But by then I was at university. I was not a child anymore. And then she went back on holiday, and then she came back, and then she passed away. And I didn't really feel all of the emotions that everyone else was feeling at the funeral. I tried to be as sad as I could, so I didn't look out of place amongst everyone else who was all deeply sad. I felt a little bit sad that she wasn't, that I wouldn't be able to see her anymore. But I wasn't extremely upset like some of the other people. Just a side story that I just remembered about my grandmother passing away is that before that, I'd actually had a dream about being in my car. No, not in my car. About being on this road, walking down this hill, then turning right, walking up this little bit of a hill, and then getting to my car and thinking, "Oh, this is funny. Something's going on here." And that was my dream. Like it was just nothing. It was just like walking. I was just walking. Then I got in my car, and that was it. That was my dream. And then my grandmother passed away, and actually it was like the day or two before she passed away. We went to see her at the hospital for the last time, and I pretty much knew it was going to be the last time, and we sort of said our goodbyes, sort of thing. But as we were leaving the hospital, I was with someone else, and we went out of the hospital, went onto the road, we walked down the hill, and then we turned right and we walked up the little hill, and I got in my car and I was like, deja vu, this is deja vu. This is like, I've seen this before. I know this is like what's meant to happen, you know. This is what it is. This is, you know, this is what the universe says is, you know, you can't run away from your fate or your destiny in some way, you know, like this. I'd seen that in a dream, and I was just like, I'm living this deja vu here. And normally deja vu lasts a few seconds. I'm like trying to keep it going as long as I can, because I want to experience it and see how much I can remember, and see if I can remember what happens next, because I want you to like have that fun experience of like. But in this case, it was like a sad moment, but I was just like, whoa, like I'm not even trying to remember. And this was like a really long deja vu that was like lasting like 30 seconds or a minute or two or something, and I was just sitting in my car and I was just like, whoa, like how many times has this happened? How many times have I gone through this scenario, experienced this moment, you know, like I've experienced it in my dreams. I've been through this before in this universe, and it's like, you know, we go through loops in time and we experience the same things maybe more than once, sometimes over and over and over again until we get it right. I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, that's a little side story, but I experienced that, not seeing my grandmother in the dream, but like after visiting her before she passed away, like that little quiet moment in the dream. It meant like, because it was nothingness, like I remembered the dream, but it didn't influence anything in any way, because it was such a little it was a dream packed with not enough information for me to actually make a difference or to affect the result in any way. The result still happened, the exact same scenario still occurred. Yeah, so that's that little side story. So getting back on topic, what is it about death that I don't connect with? I don't connect with the emotions the way that other people do. I sort of, you know, I just had that thought, and you know, maybe these experiences that I've had just help me to realize something or to know something about myself. And it's like, I get the impression, I get the sort of knowing inside me that maybe, you know, people do get all emotional about death and someone not being around anymore, because most people sort of perceive the world as that, they see it as that's all there is. You know, this reality is all that people can imagine. This reality is all that people want to know, care to know about, or that's all they know about. Even the religious people, they sort of they might acknowledge that maybe there's either life after death or some other thing, but they don't really. I don't know if they really believe it. I don't know if they really know it. Like they might believe it, but they might not actually sort of deeply inside them know it. I think they just maybe believe it because that's what they've been told, but they don't like truly believe it or something. Whereas like I sort of, for me, it helps me to kind of know within myself that if that because I don't react to death in the same way that other people do. It's almost like my higher self, my eternal knowing knows that there's more to our consciousness. There's more to who we are, what we are, than just this body, than just this realm, than just this world that we know. So it's almost like there's part of me that knows that. I guess this is what I'm trying to say. There's a part of me that knows that this world is only like a small fraction of everything, and this experience is just like a small experience that I may have amongst a much greater lifetime of some sort. And so why would I be sad about death and dying when it's kind of like almost like a distraction in this world, or it's used against us in some way to control us and feed off of us and that sort of thing. Why do I need to connect to all of those things that everyone else is connecting to? It's almost like my subconscious knows this already, and so that's why I react the way I do. I guess I'm trying to say it's sort of like people have this built-in logic inside of them of how they operate, and their subconscious sort of knows things, and this subconscious kind of like dictates the way we do things. But we might not consciously know or be aware of what our subconscious knows, and we have to like go through this kind of process of like looking backwards through stories and putting things together and going, why did I react this way? Why did I do things this way? To kind of try and figure out what our subconscious actually knows, because like our consciousness knows the consciousness that we're aware of, like our self-awareness is aware of being aware. And then there's the like the processing part of our brain that's very logical and knows how to deal with thoughts and putting everything together. But then there's the like subconscious part of ourselves that doesn't really speak in logic and doesn't really speak in our language. It kind of like speaks in symbols and kind of really out there things, and it speaks a totally different language. So it might know things that we don't know consciously, and we can't like necessarily communicate directly with our subconscious, but our subconscious can tell us things, or our higher self or higher conscious or whatever consciousness or whatever you want to call it, whatever some other aspect of ourselves may know things and be trying to push us to experience things in this world. Yeah, that the basic consciousness that we're aware of doesn't know. This is hard to explain in words, but if you've looked into the Mandela Effect and all these sort of topics, hopefully you'll get a sense of what I'm trying to say. You get a bit of an idea, like for some people, the Mandela Effect is like such a huge part of their lives because for them, I feel like their higher self or their subconscious or something is like, look, you got to look at this, look at that. There's more to the world. There's more to, to everything that what you've just been shown or been told. So it just keeps over and over and over. Look, more proof. There's more to the world than what you know. More, and people just keep getting hit with the Mandela Effect over and over and over again, and they just like it's such a big deal for them. Like Blaze and all the other people that have big channels and lots of subscribers, and they get really into it, and they have deep chats with people. And well, it's not deep. It's just all about the Mandela Effect all the time. and they're normally talking about effects themselves, whereas I think the purpose of it is to start looking deeper and start looking beyond just the effects of the Mandela effect, and start looking at the world in a different way, seeing things in a different way. I feel like that's probably why your subconscious, or some aspect of yourself, is showing you these things. Like Blaze will be walking along the streets, he'll be going shopping through a shopping mall, and he'll be saying, like, it feels like the Mandela effect is speaking to me. It feels like it's trying to show me things. And I think it's not the Mandela effect that I don't think Mandela effect is like an entity so much. I feel like it's a process. It's a function. It's something that happens, or it's an effect itself. But I don't think it's an entity. I think the entity is him. Like, I think some aspects of him is trying to show him, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I think until people like Blaze and other people, I think until they start to view the world in a different place, in a different way, they'll just keep getting hit with Mandela effect over and over until they learn that lesson. Whereas for me, I feel like I already knew all of that years ago, and for me, the Mandela effect is just like a little wake-up call, like, hey, you already knew the world was more than what people told you. Here's proof, here's a little bit of proof just to show you that actually that's what it is. So I don't get hit by the Mandela effect all the time. I sort of see things and I agree with people, but I only just get enough to go, yep, this is it. Like, I always knew there was more to the world, and now I know it. Now I know for sure, and the Mandela effect just takes me off in lots of different paths and avenues that I love to explore and go down. And there's so much more to it than just logos and symbols and everything else changing. So that's another little rant, another little sidebar conversation. But yeah, hopefully that helps someone in some way. There's more to the Mandela effect than just those changes. But getting back to the main topic, life and death, I feel that there is more to life. This video is mostly talked about death, but hopefully it'll give you some different perceptions on life itself. Maybe we can view life in a different way. I'll leave that up to you. I've talked about death in this video, but try and think about the things that I've spoken about, and then try and relate them to life itself. How can you improve your life and the lives of other people? How can you view life in a different way? What is life? And all of those sort of things. Hopefully I pop some different questions into your mind, or different ideas, and hopefully it helped you in some way. So it's been a really long video, but thanks for everything, and I'll talk to you later.